great pleasure to introduce you to the hosts of tonight's tasting. It's the first time they tell me that they've drunk cognac at 7 o'clock in the morning. It is 7 o'clock in the morning in France, but we're delighted to have Justine and Noe Tesseron join us. So co-owners of Chateau Pontet Canet, and the fourth generation in the Tesseron family. So wonderful to have you join us. And I think, you know, another family-owned business just like us. Justine was just saying this time last year, she was here in New Zealand just before our first lockdown, got out just in time, and hasn't traveled anywhere since. So we were the very last place that she traveled to. But thank you both very, very much for joining us tonight. And I think what we'll do is hand over to both of you to start taking us through the wines when you're ready.
Hello, everybody. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you very much, Liz, and all the team at Glengarry.
It's a real pleasure, you know, to be with you, but we would prefer to be with you in real and not behind a screen. So as Liz said, I was with you, I was in New Zealand just a year ago, and I haven't traveled since last year. So it's very sad, and but hopefully with all the new techniques now, we can do nice things, and look, we can even have a tasting through the screen. So that's very nice.
So Justine, my sister, will start with Pontet Canet, and I'll carry on with the cognacs, if you will.
So what we could do is maybe I do a quick introduction about the history of the chateau, and I give you, you know, the details about how we work there, and then we could go through the tasting. So for the tasting, I will recommend to start with the oldest, so with 2013, and then we go with 2015. I will explain you later why we do on this way. So maybe, Liz, do we share the screen to show you some pictures? Let me check. Here it is. Okay. Faire défiler les photos pendant que je parle. So as Liz said in the introduction, my name is Justine, and I'm the fourth generation of my family, and it's very interesting because my family first started in the cognac, and Noe, we talk about it later, but my great grandfather started with the cognac business, and then my grandfather was a big fan of Bordeaux wines, and he first bought Chateau Lafont Rocher in Saint-Estèphe, so a little bit northern, and then so that was in 1960, and then he bought Pontet Canet in 1975. So he was a big Pauillac lover. And he loved the region, so he really decided he really wanted to buy a winery there. So we are very lucky to be the fourth generation to still be there and to still manage the family business. So today I'm working with very closely to my father to manage the chateau, and we are so. We are based in, this is a very beautiful map, very easy, very simple map. So as you can see, there is Paris, northern, Bordeaux, southern on the west coast. And Pauillac is very very famous because there is 3 of the first growth in the classification of 1855. So there is Chateau Latour, which is, you know, obviously very famous. Chateau Mouton Rothschild, which is the closest winery from Pontet Canet. And also a little bit northern, there is Chateau Lafite Rothschild, and of course many other different chateaus around us. So Pontet Canet is a fifth growth, but when my father took over, he really wanted to increase the quality of our wines, and with the technical director, they thought about how they could increase that quality, and they decided to change completely the way of working the vineyard. So they started to work organic and biodynamic in 2004. And you have to know that, you know, at that time, nobody in Bordeaux was working like that. So we were the very first chateau. It's the very first Grand Cru Classé, classified growth, to start working this way. Why we were the first? Because I think, you know, in Bordeaux, the climate could be very difficult. Sometimes it could be very humid. And when we have too much humidity, that could develop some kind of disease, that could develop some kind of mushrooms called the mildew, which is a disease for the vines. And you know, by working organic and biodynamic, we don't have the special treatments to help the vines to survive against this kind of disease. So what we do is, it's a lot of work in prevention. It's a lot of work to help the vines to be stronger enough to resist by themselves against those kind of disease. So we started in 2004, and then it's a long way, it's a long process. And we really wanted to, so in 2004, that was only on 30% of the vineyard, the way we worked. And then it was, when we tasted the wines, you know, after the harvest, we could already see a real difference on the quality of the wine. So we said, you know, why not doing it for 100% of the vines? And to give you an idea, we have 81 hectares of vines, which is quite big. And they are all around the chateau, all around the house. So in 2005, we decided to convert from one year to another the entire vineyard. And we really wanted to get the certification to prove that it's possible to work organic and biodynamic in Bordeaux. So that's why we decided to get the certification, but usually it takes 3 years to have the certification. But for us, it took a little bit more time because, you know, we were not that ready, and you know, I think we did some wrong things, so we had to, you know, to improve and to see what was not correct and what we can, you know, do better for the quality and all those things. So we finally get the certification in 2010. So it took like, yes, 5 years and a half. So that's a picture of the vineyard, of one part of the vineyard, of course. The vineyard is planted with mostly Cabernet Sauvignon. So we have the majority of Cabernet Sauvignon, like 65%. We also have some Merlot. So Merlot grapes is planted with 30%. And then we also have Cabernet Franc and Petit Verdot. So we also, so of course, biodynamic and organic methods are in the heart of Pontet Canet, in the heart of our philosophy. But I think, the quality is getting higher and higher every year. But I think it's, of course, because of the biodynamics, but also with all the small things, the small details that we brought to Pontet Canet. And I think, small details after small details make bigger things. So to give you another example, we also work the vineyard with horses. So that's another pictures. We decided to introduce the horses in the vineyard in 2008, because before 100% was worked with tractors, with machines. But the thing is, the machines are very, they are more and more sophisticated, and they are more and more heavy. So that makes the soils very, very compact. And we need to have some air in the soil. So that's why we thought about how, what we could do for our soils to have more air. And then we, I think in the previous time, like many years ago, they were working the vineyard with cow. But today it's a little bit difficult to work with cows. So that's why we decided to work to reintroduce the horses. And so the horses, in 2008, we started with 3 horses. And now, to give you an idea, we have 10 of them, and they are covering half of the vineyard. So on 50%, we have the horses, and only the horses for all the works. We can, as you can see on the pictures, we can spray, we can treat the vines, we can also work the soils. So move the plowing, and yes, they are doing everything. So that's on 50%, and on the other half we still have the tractors, but our goal is really to do one day 100% only with the horses and not having any more tractors. So that's the next step, but that will be, step by step, because we need, of course, more horses. We have the place now. We have the location. We built new stables for 20 horses, but, we need the people to work with them. We need to train them. So that will be step by step.
Justine, those are, in those pictures there, those are very, very close plantings you can see. Is there a difference in your vine density between the sections of the vineyard that you work by horse and the ones that are still worked by tractor?
Yes, there is we can see a real difference really on the soils. I mean, where the tractors are, for example, that's a very good example. Where the tractors are working, for example, when it's raining, the water is really staying, because the soils are very compact. The water is not going deep, in the soils. Whereas where the horses are working, it's very drained. It's very drained. There is more air, there is more, we saw some insects like worms, for example, and when it's raining, the water is going down, is going deep very quickly. So it's better, for the roots as well to go deep where the horses are, and many.
But the density of the vineyard is the same where the work and or the horses work and where the tractors work. It is planted the same.
So I show you different pictures as well of you know, the life in Pontet Canet during all the seasons. So here we are in September, where, you know, when the grapes are ripe. So we do 100% of the harvest by hand. Of course, we have, to give you an idea, we have 250 people coming just for the harvest time. Which is quite big, but you know, we need to manage. If we have, you know, if it's sunny weather, it's fine. We can take our time to harvest, no rush. It's very peaceful when we have the grapes ready to harvest, very ripe. Well, not very ripe, but just ripe. It's enough. And then we the goal to have 250 people is really, if we have, you know, bad weather like rain or whatever, we can harvest everything in 10 days. We don't want to, we don't want to wait the grapes to be overripe or to be damaged by the rain. So that's why we have so many people. But usually the harvest time lasts 15 days approximately, 2 to 3 weeks, depends of the years. So we that's a typical scene of the harvest time. So we have the horses waiting, and the people are, you know, cutting the grapes, and then the horse can bring back the harvest directly to the cellar. So from the time the people are harvesting, we bring directly the grapes to the cellar. There is no manipulation in the vines. So we bring everything, and then it's in the cellar that we do the sorting. So that's another on these pictures. That's a very special. That's a very unique system that we created. We few years ago, I think that was in 2017, that we started to work this way. Before we had like automatic machines to do the sorting. It was manual sorting, but with a conveyor, you know, like in the supermarket. You know, the grapes were moving on a table, on a conveyor. And then people were, you know, selected the grapes, which was not correct. But we thought that we had to go further by on the sorting. We had to be very precise, even in the selection of the grapes that we keep for the wine, of course. So so the way we do is, we have few tables like this one, where everything is static. I mean, it's not moving. There is no machines, no electronic at all. Everything is 100% manual. So we put the grapes out of the box on each side of the table, and then we have 2 people on each side, which are, you know, taking out the leaves, taking out the berries which doesn't look correct, and everything like that. And when everything is sorted, we push all the grapes in the middle part, where you see the grill. And then we have here in the center, we have 4 people which are desteaming by hand. So they do like a massage on the grapes, and then the berries, we are just above the vat. Yes, at the top floor, so right above the vats, and then the berries could go directly in the vats, and then we take out the stem. So that's very very easy. It's a bit physical. But, you know, with this way of doing this, we can control everything. and all the grapes has been checked before going in the vats. So that's very, very important. And since 2 years now, 100% of the harvest is made with like this. So I show you another picture of it. So here is 3 pictures of our vats. We use 3 kind of fermenters. So that's the original ones. The original one, which is made with wooden concrete, with wooden vats. Then we use, so this one, the wooden vats is from the end of the 19th century. But here they are quite, the vats are very big. And you will see through the time, we really prefer to work with smaller fermenters to be even more precise during the fermentations. So that's very important. So here we have concrete vats as well, which this one is more recent. We built it in 2005, and they are smaller, approximately half of the wooden vats. And this one is the very last room that we built, and it's a very unique one actually. We decided to build this room for the harvest 2017. We use it for the 17 vintage for the first time. And here, so they look quite big, but they are very small. Each one is the equivalent of 40 hectoliters. So very, very small. And they are all made in concrete, but the concrete is made with the soil of Pontet Canet. It's a little, it's, you know, the way we work in biodynamic is a little bit like to use all the materials, to use all the things that are on the winery. And for those concrete vats, we really wanted to make the concrete with the sediment, with the soil of Pontet Canet. So we took the soil and we give it to the constructor, and he made 30 vats like this. And also I was telling you earlier about the, you know, about the question of details, and here I think the big details is that there is no electricity at all in this room, apart from the light, but the light is very low in electricity because it's made with LED, so it's very, very low, and we wanted to do something very neutral for the wine. So that's why as well we have built you know, the sorting tables with no electricity, with no machines, because we wanted to be very efficient and very neutral. So here, this cellar brings us a lot of precision even during the fermentations, because we don't have to intervene that much. We just leave the wine as it is, and the work is made by itself. Almost.
If I can add something, I think what's very important with those vats as well is that Justine was saying it earlier, we are trying to be very precise in the vineyard. And if we are to be precise in the vineyard, we need to be precise in the wine, in the sorting and in the winemaking. And that wouldn't be possible without small volumes vats. You need to have a good tools if you want to make a good work, basically.
And then and then comes the time of the aging. So the way we do in Pontet Canet, before 2012, 100% of the wine was aged in barrels. And then, you know, we think that having too much oak for us was like having too much makeup, you know. We really wanted to, as the way we work in the vineyard is biodynamic. Biodynamic is here to help the vineyard to express itself better. To show, the idea is to show the expression of the terroir. And by having too much oak, it was like hidden too much flavors that we wanted to have, that we wanted to keep. We wanted to feel the fruit, we wanted to feel the expression given by the terroir, but sometimes, you know, when you have too much oak, you can't feel all those aromas. So that's why we decided a few years ago, almost 10 years ago now, actually, we decided to reduce a little bit the oak in the aging process. And since 2012, we age 35%, approximately 35% of the production in those concrete, we call them amphoras, concrete amphoras. So that will really help us to keep the wine as it is. The wine which is going in is not going at all in oak. It's separate. We still use both, of course. We still use the barrels for the majority, but approximately 1/3 is going in concrete to really keep, you know, the freshness, the fruits, and you will see now we're gonna taste the two vintages, and you will see that that purity of fruit that we will have. So also they are made with the soil, with the terroir of Pontet Canet. Actually, we in half of the amphoras on the left side, they are made. The concrete is made with some gravels, with some stones of the vineyards, and on the other half, the concrete is mixed with some clay.
Gravel.
Limestone, sorry, not clay, with limestone, and we mix that, and you know, that will bring something different as well to the wine.
And the amphoras are painted with the clay, symbolically.
Definitely. So here it is. So I don't know if do you have any questions? Where is it?
The chat.
Maybe we could stop the screen share. Here it is. Okay. So maybe we could start the tasting, and please feel free to ask if you get any if you get any questions. So we're gonna start. I explained you earlier that we will start the tasting with the 2013 vintage, and then we will go to 2015, because I really wanted you to see the evolution of the quality. We have two vintages, but I always do the same on tastings. If we have few vintages, we always start with the oldest, because it's very important to see that evolution regarding the work we have done in the vineyard and with the work we have done, you know, in the cellars and at every at every step. So 2000, yes.
Sorry, just a question with regards to the amphora and the aging in it. The question that's come through is, what do you think the changes between the wines before they were aged in the concrete to now being aged in the concrete? What has it done to the wine? What is different in your view?
It's I think since the vintage 2012, having 1/3 in the concrete for the aging really helped the wine to have more freshness, to have more that purity of fruit. It's very pure. It's very it gives to the wine a kind of energy that we didn't have before, and I think we did, of course, amazing wines by having 100% in oak. We have amazing vintages like 2009, 2010, and many others that was done before, which was aged only in oak barrels, which are beautiful. But we thought that we needed that freshness. We needed that. We really needed to feel the freshness of the fruit. And I think by having too much these oak flavors, that was going a little bit at the opposite of the way we was working in the vineyard, by working organic and biodynamic.
And if I may add something, I think one additional difference is that, it's not because you're in Pauillac and because you're aiming to make the best wines possible with the terroir you have, that it cannot be a wine of pleasure as well. And, we are the first drinkers of our own wine, the first consumers. And what we like is, regardless if it's a truly beautiful and classic vintage or not, having a wine where you want to come back at it and you want to finish the bottle and you want to have a good time. And I think that comes with the purity, that comes with the fruit, the freshness as well. When you finish a glass, you want to want another one, and then you want to finish the bottle.
And to open another one.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. So
the questions.
So yes, so 2013 was I was explaining earlier that the weather conditions could be sometimes difficult in Bordeaux. Usually during the summertime, we have nice sunny weather, and the temperatures could go around let's say 25 degrees to sometimes 40 degrees. But sometimes, unfortunately, the weather could be very rainy. Sometimes it could be cold, and what happened in 2013, we had quite a cold weather during the flowering. So during April, May, it was quite cold. So that was a little bit difficult for us. For our vines to develop well the grapes. So in 2013, we produced half of a normal production, which is quite low. But the wine we have produced in this year is really what the vineyards wanted to give us. So of course we have less wine than usual, but the wine we have is the pure expression of the terroir. So it's there is no makeup. I mean, it's the pure. I was talking about the pure expression, but I think it's really that. We have a wine which is very fresh, very well balanced, very elegant, a lot of fineness, And I think it's really it's a wine which is really enjoyable right now. It's you know, it's, I call it a wine of pleasure. We don't you know, we don't need to wait for any special occasion to drink it. It's really a wine that whenever you are thirsty or whenever you want to enjoy a good wine, you can open a bottle of 2013 Pontet Canet. You're gonna have a good time for sure. So so this wine is still aged for 1/3 in concrete. The other part is still aged in the oak. We can, if you want, you can compare to the other vintage, which is 2015. Do we have some questions? Mm-hmm. So 2015 was very famous year in our region. I think everybody in Bordeaux has produced a beautiful wine. And I mean, I think the weather in this year, the weather conditions were almost perfect from the beginning to the end of, you know, from the beginning of the seasons, from the flowering, during all the summertime, nice temperatures, not too warm, not too cold, very, you know, very good. Until the end of the harvest. So that was, you know, very helpful, of course, to have the very important thing is to really have the good ripeness. If we harvest when the grapes are ripe, we're gonna do well. That will be helpful to do a good wine after that. But in 2015. The wine is, I think it's another level from 2013 in terms of quality. It's both wines are very different. And I think if you take, let's say, 10 different vintages of Pontet Canet, every vintage is very different. Because the way we work, we don't want to do like, you know, we don't want to do a copy paste from the previous vintage or even from the neighbors. We really want Pontet Canet to be unique. We want it to each year have a different wine. And I think, yes, Pontet Canet 15 is very beautiful. We still have those notes of freshness. Even if the wine could be young for some people, Pontet Canet 15 is already very approachable, very drinkable right now.
I think that's another feature of, I mean, advantage we got from the eggs as well. I mean, partly from the eggs. It's all the amphoras. It's all those methods that have been addition together that brings us there. But the wines tend to open a little bit earlier as well and are more accessible, as Justine says, soon. But a good vintage stays a good vintage. And what's amazing is that vintages, even like 2009 and 10, that are, I would say, very close in quality to 2015, when you drink them, you may think, oh, that's a tremendous vintage for Bordeaux and an amazing vintage for Pontet Canet. I need to keep that for my whole life and open it on my deathbed. But they are already very, very, very good to drink and very accessible, which doesn't mean you can keep them. It just, I would say, it set the balance more in the middle in terms of drinkability and aging possibilities as well.
It's really interesting, I think, to taste these two vintages next to each other, because we're tasting, you know, one of the greatest vintages of the last 20 years with what was one of the lesser vintages of the last 20 years. But you can see with what you guys have been doing in the vineyard and with the technical winemaking and the different ways of producing things, that the quality of wine you can produce now in a vintage like 2013 is incredible. I mean, if we went back 20 or 30 years, just the wine would be nothing like that.
Well, what's amazing with the 13 is that on a difficult vintage, the vine gave us a wine that has a unique style, you know, and it's a very 13 is the best wine you can have for blind tasting to fool all your friends. They will never believe that's a 13.
I just want to show you. Sorry, Liz, please.
No, I was going to say, I remember 2013, I came and tasted on Premier, and I remember walking into the tasting rooms, and I was, in some instances, the only person there. And I just think it was a shame because, you know, a lot of the wine trade just wrote off 2013, and you look at a lot of the critics' commentary, you know, they went out very early and said, these wines, this is a disaster. And then they didn't even bother coming and tasting. And certainly what you've shown here tonight with this wine, and, you know, what I had the pleasure of tasting in Bordeaux as well, is universally the quality wasn't there, but top properties like Pontet Canet still made very, very good wines. And I think it's a really good lesson to us to not, you know, don't read everything that's written and go, that's what every chateau is going to do.
Yeah, well, it's really true what you said. The problem is, you know, sometimes because of the weather conditions, the wine critics and some of the people, some of the wine trade or whatever, you know, just are killing are really killing the vintages before people tasting it. And what happened in 2013, as the weather was not so good during, you know, the flowering and the rest of the season, the people said, no, don't go for 13, it's not a good vintage. But we were sure in Pontet Canet about the quality of our wine. So my father decided to release the price just before the En Primeur week. I don't know if you remember, Liz. And because as he was sure about the quality, he was, you know, he doesn't want the people to say bad words about 13 before the people taste, because it's not that everywhere. And I think, you know, I think of course, it's easier to produce a good wine on a good year, but it's more difficult to produce a good wine on a difficult year. And I think with the way we work now since 2004, I think even if we have difficult year, I think Pontet Canet is doing good wines every year. They are all different, as I was explained, but we really, I mean, every vintage has its own personality.
And lesson learned, you don't need to watch only the trailer, you need to watch the whole movie.
So I just wanted to show you, I know you have very small bottles of Pontet Canet in front of you. Glengarry has prepared very beautiful samples, but I want to show you the real bottle. Here it is. Voilà. I know, yes.
and cheers, by the way. Cheers to you all.
Santé.
Santé. Cheers.
Cheers. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, so we can have a drink now.
Perfect.
So maybe I don't know. Would you like to start with a story of Tesseron Cognac, or I don't know if you have a
few questions. More
questions about Pontet Canet? Well, we could talk about it later as well, of course.
Okay. Perfect. I think unless anyone's got some more questions, but as you say, we can come back to the Pontet Canet. I think just before we do move on, There's been some lovely comments, which I know you can see here, just on how lovely that 13 is, and that it's very soft and lovely light tannin finish there. And some very, very nice comments there on the 15.
Yes, I'm reading that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, perfect. So what we'll do is, if everyone can just ensure they've got their cognac poured, the tasting mat that you've got there does have where to pour them. You don't have the pleasure of us pouring for you tonight. So all you've got to do is get the right thing in the right place, but I think we've got it well laid out. And then, yeah, should we go through an overview of Tesseron Cognac to start with?
Sure. Thank you very much, Liz. Perfect. So you will have, now let's move to the world of Cognac, which is not very far technically from Pauillac. We are, so as Justine said, our family originally comes from Cognac. And our great-grandfather, Abel Tesseron, has actually founded the Cognac house in 1905, Tesseron Cognac. But the brand, the bottles, as you see them today, weren't around before 2003. So for 100 years, there wasn't any name Tesseron, properly speaking. We used to harvest, distill, and age cognac and sell it to the major cognac houses that you may know, all the big names. So we used to be one of the suppliers. And in 2003, our father Alfred decided to kind of start, I would say, sharing a few of our cognacs. So basically, we are based in the little town of Châteauneuf-sur-Charente, which is about an hour north of Bordeaux. If you're, I would say, in a bird's fly, it is not very far from Pauillac. It is on the other side of the Gironde river. And we are approximately 20 minutes from Cognac. So we have two vineyards in Châteauneuf, in Cognac, actually. So one is on the periphery of Châteauneuf-sur-Charente in what we call Petite Champagne, which has nothing to do with the champagne itself, but is rather the name of a cru. So there are different cru in the region of Cognac, and we have two vineyards in the two main cru. The most renowned cru being Grand Champagne, where we have 24 hectares of vines, and we have 14 hectares of vines in Petite Champagne. So those are the two most renowned cru of Cognac. And the very particularity of Tesseron Cognac is that for a small house, because it is a very, very small house we are talking about. It's a very I would say intimate or exclusive production. And for a small house, we have one of the biggest reserves of Grand Champagne Cognac and of old cognacs. And the reason is, I was mentioning that we used to supply the big houses in Cognac. And we are very lucky with Justine, because our great-grandfather, our grandfather, and our father have always kept a big part of their stock and not sell everything, hoping that one day those stocks will be valorized and we will be able to start our own, I would say, our own collection of different expressions. So that is why when our father created the brand, he decided to do only XO Cognac, to offer only the best and oldest blend possible. And that wouldn't be possible without the stocks. So basically, in terms of what we bottle, we offer cognacs that are between, that are almost exclusively XO, at one exception, which is composition, which is the first cognac you have in front of you, I guess now, which is the only non-XO, thank you very much, which is the only non-XO cognac. Up there you see the beautiful bottle, which is the only non-XO cognac from the collection. So if you wish to try and start tasting and comparing the different cognacs while I'm discussing about the house and the process of production, please don't hesitate. And that way, if ever I'm boring, you can always drink a few sips of cognac.
But Noe, maybe we can share a few pictures with our guests. Here it is. Oops. Here it is.
So basically, in terms of cognac, sorry. Oh, there we go. Yes. For those of you who may not be familiar with cognac, cognac is a grape-based spirit, obviously. So we grow a big majority of Uni Blanc grapes, which is also known in its Italian name, which is Trebbiano. Very good Italian accent here. So we grow a big majority of Uni Blanc grapes. We have a little bit of Folle Blanche and Colombard, which is quite rare in the region. Maybe 95% of the cognac appellation is planted in Uni Blanc, which is not a bad thing. It has all the best characteristics you're looking for in order to make a wine that is going to be distilled to make a great cognac. But that will bring a little bit more particularities in our different blends. So basically, we grow those white grape varietals that will be harvested around September, October. Then we will make a wine that has a little bit of a white wine, obviously, that will be a little bit of a higher acidity than if you were to make a drinking wine. And the reason is that we need this profile for the wine to be distilled in order to make a very aromatic and expressive eau de vie of cognac. So after the harvest in September, October, this wine is brought to the distillery where it will be distilled in a very traditional cognac way, which is the Charentaise distillation, la distillation charentaise, in copper heaters, those big copper heaters. So those are our two distilleries. On the left is an historical one we don't use anymore, but on the right is the one we use. We are using right now, actually, as we speak. The distillery is happening. The distillation is in process. So usually we start distillating early November until the end of the year, but we are so for our own harvest. But we are what we call distillateur de profession, which means we can also distill for other people. So sometimes when a viticulture, a grape farmer we know has its harvest, he wants us to distill, we can offer that service because this is a very big distillery. We have 8 alembics, which is a lot for us. It's a remnant from the time where we used to be in the négoce when we used to provide the big houses. So why not make it available for other people? So the distillation process, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, is quite unique to Charente. It's what we call a double distillation. So basically, you will load the wine into the heaters, which are approximately, they are actually 25 hectoliters each, which will be heated with a naked flame, heated by gas. There you go. So basically, the boiler, you can see it, what we call the heater. The first few drops that will evaporate in the still head and through the swan neck that you see on the left will condense in the coil pipe, which will be refreshed in the cooling tank. So that will bring condensation, and everything that we do during the distillation, every cut, meaning the moment we decide what's coming out of the still is good and we're keeping that part or we are not keeping that part, what we call the cut. Everything is done by testing and with the nose by our master blender, whose name is Romain Martial. So it's a very artisanal and hands-on process, if I may. And a particularity of Tesseron Cognac is that we distill with the lees of the wine, which is not always the case in Charente. And the reason we do that is that, as I said, we are specialized in all blends. And if you're specialized in younger blends, you don't want to distill with lees because that will give you eau de vie of cognac that are a little bit too aromatic for young cognac. But if you are to use those eau de vie in much older blends, as we do for 1, 2, 3 generations, that will bring a lot more aromas and fruit back into an old spirit. So you will see that every cognac you are going to try tonight are still very fruit forward, even the older blends, because what we do not want is to have sometimes you drink an old spirit, it is very, very charming, but the only thing you can have on the nose is wood, and it's a little bit, oaky and dusty. So it's a way for us to bring back those cognacs to life and really to carry on the signature taste of cognacs, which is to make cognacs that are very fine, elegant, but very fruit forward as well. After the distillation, the eau de vie comes out at 72 degrees of alcohol, 72 degrees, and it is transparent. And the color will be gained, of course, as you can imagine, through the aging process in oak. So all of our eau de vie will spend a very small amount of time in French new oak. And all of our barrels, what we call casques in cognac, are made of French oak from the Limousin region, which is not very far. And they are all made with thick grain and quite a strong heat, slightly toasted, sorry, that's the right word. And what we want is for the eau de vie to spend not too much time in new oak, but to gain oak quite fast on a small amount of time. So they will stay only 8 months in new oak. After that, we will transfer the eau de vie.
So that's the barrels.
Sorry?
So the new oak are the barrels you see on the pictures.
Yes, yes. And after that, we will transfer the eau de vie into what we call red barrels or ginger barrels, which look very similar to the barrel you have in front of you. It's a little bit the same, I would say, thing than a barrel of one wine. It is basically a cask that has contained cognac for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. So the exchange between the eau de vie and the oak will be a little bit more limited. And that will stay in what we call those red barrels for 6 to 8 years, depending on what you want to do with your eau de vie. And after that, the cognacs will be transferred in our old barrels. So the picture you have in front of you is our beautiful oldest cellar, which is a 12th century, which used to be a 12th century crypt, is where we keep our best eau de vie for aging in barrel. So, and the barrel you have in front of you are what we call old barrels, simply. And the cognac can stay there and age and get all those great aromas for up to 80 to 100 years, which is a lot of time. And after that, we consider the cognacs have reached their really peak in terms of quality, and that there wouldn't be any use to let them in oak still. And another reason is we have what we call the angel share. 2 to 3% of every single cask in our cellar every year evaporates. So you can imagine that's a lot, especially when you reach 80 to 100 years. And the way we stop that process is that we store, after 80 to 100 years, our cognacs into those big demi-johns, which is dame-jeanne, which are stored in what we call the paradis. paradise. So you see the name is the best for that place. And those are, contrary to what you can imagine, those are all in glass. So 20 to 25 liters. They are glass covered in fabric, just for light protection. And they are all stored in underground. The temperature is very much the same through the year. And I was talking about our huge collection of cognacs proportionally to our size, and the collection of our demi-jones, which means cognacs that are older than 80, 100 years, more than 4 generations, is one of the biggest in the region, if not the biggest. And the ones you have in front of you are actually our oldest and date back from our great-grandfather's collection, because when he founded the house in 1905, he was already a collector of old demi-jones, old cognacs that we still have today, and some of them are still used in some of our blends. For example, the Lot 29 that you will be trying today, among the other cognacs, have a little bit of demi-jones in the blend of cognac from our Paradis in the blends. So it is a very unique thing to bottle only those cognacs, and we like to see that a little bit as sharing a little bit of our treasure. You know, it's a very, as I said, small production, and I hope you will enjoy it.
Just a couple of questions that we've got that have come up there. If we can, are you okay to stop for some questions now?
Yes, of course. Yes. Please do.
Okay. Oh, you can leave the pictures if you want, but the question was the old cellar, the humidity and temperature in it.
So we have different cellars, and the old cellar is quite humid, and it is humid through the whole year, and the temperature stays rather the same because it is underground, which has a lot of advantage because you limit the evaporation, the enjachère in those conditions, which for very old eau de vie is a good thing. But for younger eau de vie, we tend to prefer putting them, for example, like the one in New Oak Barrel. We rather put them in a drier cellar because you need natural reduction. What we call natural reduction is the evaporation of alcohol, which will reduce the ABV and kind of polish the eau de vie.
So that ties in nicely with the next question is, after 80 years of the eau de vie being in the barrel and the angels being very thirsty, what does the alcohol reduce? Like, what does it start at, and what does it go into a barrel with?
Good question. It starts around 70-72% ABV, degrees of alcohol, when it's what we call a new eau de vie, a young eau de vie. When
it's
getting
out of the distillery, it's 70 degrees?
Yes, 70 degrees. And the oldest eau de vie we have before being bottled in the big demi-jones are maybe up to 36, 38 degrees of alcohol. But we reduce everything at 40% at Tesseron Cognac. So all of our blends are reduced at 40%. The older ones, mostly with natural reduction, and the younger ones are done, the blending and the reductions are done very gently. So for example, composition, which you have in front of you, is a blend in between the VSOP and the XO. It's basically a 4-8-year-old blend, just a little bit below the XO. And the reductions, we are lucky to be a small house in a way because we have time. And we have time to prepare the blends, to start blending the eau de vie together, even prior, years before the final blend. So every time we do that, we tend to reduce the eau de vie. And, it's like a good marriage. Eau de vie need to get to know each other in order to blend well. And in the glass, you can see the difference when the people behind the cognacs have taken the time to blend the cognacs, because there is sometimes for people a misconception that you put an eau de vie in a barrel and you don't touch it for 50 years, 80 years, and then you get it out and you put it in your bottle. But it's a very different thing. There is always work in the cellar. Our master blender is constantly blending or pre-blending eau de vies together, as I said, to get them to blend very well with time. And that is a process that is happening through months, years, decades, and even generations. And some of the blends you have in front of you have been distilled by our grandfather, have been blended through our father's youth. So the notion of time in cognac is very unique. We always say we are bottling our grandfather's eau de vie, our father's eau de vie, and distillating our future grandchildren one. So it's a very unique way of working in terms of stocks and planning and what you want to do with your eau de vie. But the most important thing in cognac is what you have at your disposal as tools, meaning the eau de vie. And we are lucky, really, really lucky to be able to work with only the best eau de vie you can find. So when our master blender is creating a blend, as some of the ones you have in front of you, he has at his disposal a palette of thousands of different eau de vie. So that's really unique.
Excellent, thank you. There's another question here just about during World War II, what was the impact on those old cellars?
Well, there's a rumor, when you come in cognac, you see the inside and outside of the buildings. Every building that contains cognac, because of the evaporation, you have mushrooms on the wall, kind of black tainted walls. And there is a rumor as when the Americans started bombing the Germans and starting coming back to France. There is a myth that American bombers used to avoid the blackened buildings, not to destroy the cognacs, and regarding the beginning of the war, if I may, we had a wall that was the crypt, as you saw it, was actually sealed, so stone walled, and the region wasn't as impacted as the Champagne region was, for example, which was pillaged and other things. So you have a few, I would say, holes in some of the stocks if you look at those years. But generally speaking, the Cognac region was very much spared.
Excellent, thank you. And I think the next question was around, what do the lot numbers mean? But I think you're about to explain that to us.
Yes. Yes.
So maybe you can start the tasting by explaining what is the composition.
Yes. So I will come back to the lot just after composition. So the very first cognac you have in front of you, composition, is, as I said, the only cognac that is non-XO that we commercialize. And the original goal with this blend was originally created to be mixed, to be a little bit used more freely, And our master blender had one really main goal with that blend, is to make a cognac that was very fresh, fruity, easygoing, and stands with ice. And composition is a cognac you can enjoy neat, but also in cocktails. And what we wanted to avoid at all costs is sometimes when you mix a spirit or a cognac with ice or in a cocktail, his structure and his aromatic structure kind of breaks down. And the only thing left is the alcohol and a kind of caramelly finish, which is not very agreeable. And what we wanted is to have a blend that stands on its own, but when mixed, keeps its fruit structure and aromatic structure on the nose and on the palate. So that was really the goal with composition. And another thing is composition is a blend of the two main crus of Cognac, so which I was mentioning earlier, Grand Champagne and Petit Champagne. So it's a blend of the two best crus. And it is then what we call a fin champagne. And if you want to put fin champagne on your bottle, the only thing you need is to have at least 50% Grand Champagne and the rest of it Grand Champagne. So as for the rest of our range, we wanted to keep that positioning of offering something quite different and on a higher quality than what you would use in a cocktail or as an entry-level cognac. So it's a very fun blend to work with, and it's a lovely cognac. And of course, it's very far from what we are used to do. We are used to work with XOs and with very old blends, but I've been very happy to be able to work with such a kind of a younger and it's a very fun cognac. You can use it however you want.
It's if I can add something, this cognac you have, the first cognac you have in the glass is a very recent. It's the very last cognac that we have produced to bring you more precision. So you understood from what Noe said, but at the time of my great-grandfather and grandfather, we were supplying the other house of cognac. And then when our father took over, he wanted to have his own brand and stopped, supplying the other house of cognac. So when he launched the brand Tesseron Cognac, that was in 2003, as you said, and he started with only one range, which was called Les Classiques, with a lot. So lot 90, lot 19, lot 76, lot 53, and lot 29. And then few years later, so it was like 3 years ago, this one?
Yes.
3 years ago, he launched the composition cognac just for, as Noe explained, cocktail, bartender, and also to be drinkable with ice. So it's a different from the other cognacs we do. It's a different style, but more for young people, for bar and even for people who like to drink cognac on ice.
I see there is a question. Any specific cocktails you would recommend? And
the sidecar.
And somebody recommended the sidecar. I think it's the most classic, but it's one of my favorites. It's lime, cognac, and Cointreau, and it's very good. And what I really like as well is one of the cocktails is coming back to, I would say, on the front scene today is the Negroni, and a cognac Negroni is actually very, very good. And cognac tonic as well. The simple things are very good. Ice, tonic, and cognac, a little bit of sparkling water, and you have yourself a good time. So Justine was mentioning the lots. Let's move on to the lot number 90, XO Ovation, if you wish. Sorry. Up. So now we are moving on to the world of the XOs. So I was mentioning, Justine mentioned it. The rest of the range is exclusively XO, which means the eau de vie composing the blend have to have spent at least 10 years in barrel. And the lot 90 for a long time before composition came along was our youngest cognac. And it is quite unique in the region to start with an XO. In terms of age, it is between 10, 15 years of age, so half a generation in oak, from Grand Champagne, Petit Champagne, and Fin Bois Cru. So it's a blend of 3 different crus. And the rest of the range from that point is exclusively from Grand Champagne. And the reason we have a blend of those different crus in the lot 90 is that for younger cognac, those crus, cognacs coming from those crus tend to express a little bit sooner. So you have more freshness, you have more, it's a very oily and approachable cognac. And the lot 90 in terms of taste is a very fruit-forward, fresh cognac. I like to compare it as ovation, I think is the right word, because it's a cognac that is a very energetic, yet you have the elegance and the finesse of, I would say, the style of the house style, but you get more fresh fruits, apricots. It has almost an exotic side to it. And it is composed exclusively of Uni Blanc grapes. I can see you are going crazy on the cocktail suggestions. Then we are moving on to the lot 76, sorry. So the lot 76, the second XO of the what we call the classic collection. So lot 76 is around 1 generation old. So when we talk about generations, it's like a human generation, meaning 20, 25 years. So the lot 90 is half a generation, the 76, 1 generation. The lot 53 that you're going to have after is more than 2 generations, and the lot 29, more than 3 generations. So within the classic collection and the different lots, we cover more than 4 generations in terms of age, which is quite unique in the region. So I mentioned it earlier, from the lot 76, you are exclusively in Grand Champagne. So the best terroirs in Charente, which produce the cognacs that are the most suited to be aged to perfection. And it is still 100% Uni Blanc grapes. Maybe a few questions so far?
You didn't reply on the what
on
does the lot
yes.
means?
Maybe the different lot number, the reason we decided to call them the lot 90, 76, 53, and 29 was first of all a glimpse to how we classify the cognacs in the cellar. So the different eau de vie and blends that are currently aging in the cellar, we call them lots. So when you're coming to visit us, which you should do, by the way, you're most welcome here. When we discuss an eau de vie, we say, oh, maybe you should try that lot, or you should blend that lot with that lot. So that was a way of bringing a little bit of the tradition in the name of our blends. And another reason is because we make blended cognac, as most producers do in cognac. You cannot mention a specific age because it is very different from a vintage spirit or vintage cognac. So the way we came up with is that in the lot 90, when this blend was created in 2003, when we started bottling, the youngest cognac in the blend was from 1990. In the lot 76, the youngest cognac in the blend was from 76 and 53 and 29. So of course, today it is not the case anymore. The average age of each blend will stay the same, but as it would be for Brut Champagne, for example, it is the goal and the job of our master blender to recreate those expressions every year. And that we still, in 30 years, the lot 90 that you will get from Glengarry will be the same that you got 5 years ago. You need to have a consistency in quality, which is very important and wouldn't be possible without those stocks I mentioned a few times.
It's every bottle that we produce will be the same quality level for example, if we produce a lot 90 today, and if we produce a lot 90 in 10 years, that will be the same quality level as Noe said. But the cognac will not come from the same time. So for example, if we produce a lot 90 today, we will take some eau de vie from 10, 12, 15 years. But if we produce a lot 90 in, let's say, in 10 years, we will take some different eau de vie than the one we use today, because we are, we have to control our stock. We are lucky to have a big stock from the previous generations, and we still continue to make this stock bigger every year by producing our own cognac every year. But we really be careful about our stock, and we have to manage this way.
Sorry. So moving on to the lot 53. So moving on to the lot 53, you are now on 2 generations in terms of age. So it is quite a big gap from the lot 76 at that point, and still exclusively from Grand Champagne Cru. And the grape varietals are quite different now. So you have a majority of Uni Blanc grapes, but also a little bit of Colombard. And that is one of the particularities of our house, is that we still have a big stock of Colombard, and we still grow a little bit of Colombard, which is a grape that used to be a lot more used in the pre-phylloxera time, in the early 19th century, for example. And today it's become quite rare in cognac. And the reason we use it in the lot 53 and in most of our older blends is that it brings a lot more complexity, a very different profile to it. And the particularity of the Colombard is that it brings a lot of structure, of oiliness. And the lot 53 is a very, very dangerous cognac because it's very mellow, it's very smooth. And when you start to drink it, you better watch your bottle. So that is for the lot 53. And
if I can add something, there is something very special on the lot 53 is when you I don't know if you feel the ranch, comment dire rancio?
Rancio. Yeah.
Rancio. Can you explain this?
The rancio character, like you would get. Yes. Yeah. So
yes, exactly.
The kind of character that you would get in a sherry, like an Oloroso sherry.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the particularity of the rancio from the lot 76, plenty on the lot 29, and very much on the lot 53. You have what Justine called the rancio, which is those aromas of nuttiness, dried fruit, and very buttery aromas that are typical of older cognacs. And that is an aroma you will never get in a cognac before 20, 30, 40 years of aging in oak. And that is the best way to discover if you're drinking an old cognac or not, is those aromas of rancio are present or not. And the lot 53 and the lot 29, particularly the lot 29, is all about rancio. This very smooth and lingering nutty and buttery flavors.
But we can really feel, this kind of aromas when the cognac are around 50 years. We don't feel the rancio if the cognac are younger. We can start to feeling that around 50 years old. So that's why, we can.
The lot 53 is all about that. Moving on to the lot 29. So now you are on more than 3 generations in terms of age. Still, of course, from Grand Champagne, Premier Cru de Cognac. So the Lot 29 is always very exciting to drink because it used to be, for a long time, we had only the classic collection, and the Lot 29 was the top cognac that we bottled, you know. And in terms of blend, you have Uni Blanc and Colombard as well, but also a little bit of Folle Blanche in the blend. And Folle Blanche this time is all about aromatic complexity. It's a little bit drier on the mouth, but you will get a tremendous complexity. And in terms of age, you've at that age, you've reached the best maturity and the most complexity, smoothness. So Justine was talking about the rancio. It is very, very present in the Lot 29 as well. I would say it has a different personality than the Lot 53. It's a different style. We wanted to have this house style I mentioned a few times of making smooth and fruit-forward cognacs and kind of elegant cognacs. But we wanted as well each lot, each expression to have its own style. And the Lot 53 is I often like to describe it as, you know, somebody that you will like instantly. The Lot 53 welcomes you with open arms. It's a great way in the world of great old cognacs. And the Lot 29 is a cognac you need to fight a little bit more to understand, but once you get to it, you realize that that is almost no equivalent in terms of complexity and flavors. It's a great cognac.
It's the Lot 29 is very interesting because more you give him some time, you know, to more air, more the cognac will give you aromas.
Yes, exactly. And if you want to try quite an experience, keep some Lot 29 at the bottom of your glass if you're brave enough to not to drink kilo, and forget your glass for half an hour, for an hour, 2 hours, and then come back at it and taste it again, and you will see that the evolution is just amazing. It's like I always say, if you spend 75 years in a box, the first thing you want to do when you come out is to, you know, get your arms around and have a big breath, you know. So that is the same thing then for an old wine, if I may.
No, just a question with regards to glasses to drink cognac from. I mean, I have wine glasses tonight because it's all I have at home.
Don't worry, the best alternative you will ever have is always a wine glass. I'm all for the wine glass. The ideal glass is what we call the tulip glass, which Riedel produce. They make a beautiful Riedel tulip glass. What I would advise to avoid, however, are those big brandy glass, you know, you hold from the bottom. Too much surface is not good. You need to have some kind of a canal to get the aromas. And a good alternative is always not too big wine glass. Yes.
Very good.
Yes, yes. I can see people showing their glass.
So Noe, when the Lot 29 was first released, obviously in 2003, 1929 was the youngest cognac in the blend. So there was obviously at 74 years of age, there was a significant proportion of cognac from Alfred's original collection in it that must have been well over 100 years old at that kind of stage. So is there still a large proportion of older than 100-year-old cognac in this now?
In terms of age, basically the Lot 29, whether it's the one from 15 years ago or today, we are positioned on the oldest and best barrels and a little bit of the youngest demi-jones. So you're in between 4 generations and the beginning of the Paradis. So it's a blend of the two. You have approximately 30% of cognacs that are in that blend that comes from the demi-jones.
Wow.
So it's basically from the time our great-grandfather passed on the company to our grandfather, which you know seems crazy, but that's the case. And a little detail about the lot 29 and the lot 53 actually is that they are the only two cognacs to have ever been, and the only two spirits actually to have ever been rated by Robert Parker, the wine critic himself at the time. And he rated the lot 53 98 points and the lot 29 100 points, which is you know, we are very lucky to have his review. And it happened actually, he tasted the lot 29 quite randomly after a wine dinner. We weren't there, and he wasn't aware our family, he knew Pontet Canet, but he wasn't aware our family made a cognac. And when he tried it, he loved it so much that he decided to write a review. And a little bit later on, he encountered one of our lot 53 at a dinner as well. And he decided he couldn't possibly rate it higher. So he put 98 points. So if you don't have a few questions, perhaps I can move on to Extra Legende, which is the last cognac you have in front of you. All right, let's move on. So Extra Legende is part of a different collection. Is what we call the signature collection. What we call the signature collection. So as Justine mentioned earlier, we started with the classic collection, and we wanted to have a collection that emphasized more on you know, kind of magnifying the blend with a little bit of a beautiful packaging as well. And the signature collection is composed of 3 different cognacs, which is XO Passion, Extra Legende that you have in front of you, and Trésor. And the particularity of those blends themselves is that the selection of the eau de vie is much more careful. And from each time range of those blends, our master blender selects the best eau de vie. So Extra Legende, in terms of age, you are in between the lot 76 and the lot 53, but the selection of eau de vie is a little bit more restrained. So it has a very different flavor profile and a much more, I would say, refined type of blend. And in terms of blend itself, the grape varietals used, it is a blend that you will not find in the classic collection, a little bit different because it is composed of Uni Blanc and Folle Blanche grapes. In the classic collection, you have the lot 53 with Uni Blanc and Colombard, and you have the 29 with Uni Blanc, Colombard, and Folle Blanche, the 3. But this time you have Uni Blanc and Folle Blanche. So it's a little bit drier in the mouth. It's a very aromatic cognac. If some of you are very cognac, classic cognac lovers and love a good cigar after dinner or whenever, Extra Legende is just the best cognac along with the lot 29 to have a cigar with. I know it sounds very classic, but what can I say? It goes well with your cigar. So you are exclusively in Grande Champagne, of course, with a very careful selection of eau de vie and Uni Blanc and Folle Blanche grapes. And as you can see, the packaging is you know, for us, the most important thing is what's inside the bottle. But if we are to offer some of the great eau de vie from our collection, we want them to present well. And actually, you can see on the picture a tulip glass. So this is a Lalique, I think, but you have a good example of what's the best glass to drink cognac with.
Do we have some questions?
Questions?
That bottle there that you just had on the screen, I remember when we opened it a few weeks ago, the weight of the stopper.
The cup, oh yes.
Yeah. Yes.
It's crazy. Everyone can't feel it tonight, obviously, because they have little bottles. But
the thing is, we, as I said, we want them to present well, and all the different the packaging companies we work with. I know it sounds like a detail, but they're all made in France, and we want to use materials that are, you know, that does not look cheap as well, and working with a French company allows that as well. So it's all about having you know, being true to ourselves, and we don't want to bottle a great cognac made in wherever cheap plastic cork thing, you know. Even if, once again, what's important for us is the liquid itself. And at first, when this collection was released, actually, the classic collection, sorry, the bottles were the simplest bottle possible. And my father came very, very proudly with his very first cognac blends with his name on it. And he was so proud. And a lot of his friends that work in the cognac business said to him, Alfred, you've got the best cognac, but what the hell is this bottle? Huh? Make an effort. Spend a little bit of money on the bottle.
Very good. Excellent. Well, I think we're bound to have some more questions, and I'm sure, Regan, you'll have some comments on the cognac, and I think that last one you've made there is right on the money, excusing the pun. But Justine and Noe, I just wanted to say thank you very much for getting up nice and early, and to take us through the tasting. I think just going back to the beginning, you know, a credit to you, the 2013 and 2015 Pontet Canet. And I certainly, you know, having followed your wines for some time now, really like the change in style, and can see the difference with the concrete and the biodynamic, and I like where it's going. So it's very good. And I think I'll leave it to Regan to sum up the cognac, because I know he has a few words.
Thank you so much, Liz, and thank you to everybody who was here.
Thanks, guys.
To keep a little bit of wine and cognac if you could, and go again for it in you know, few hours, if it's not too late for you guys, and you will see you know, just the evolution of the aromas and things like that.
So it was interesting to see earlier on, you can see one of the customers here, who I know drinks a lot of wine, commented that they don't have a lot of experience with cognac. So it was great to have the two of you together tonight, because we've got some people who love Pontet Canet here, and we've got who have never tried perhaps the Tesseron cognacs. And then we've also got people who maybe drink a lot of cognac, but have never tried Chateau Pontet Canet. So wonderful to finally bring the two of them together. And I think this format of tasting both is fantastic, because certainly for me, if I'm drinking a lot of great wine in an evening, what I want to finish the evening with is cognac, always.
Yes.
If it's a night where you're having, you know, some beers or something else,
yeah.
You know, then whiskey might be my drink of choice. But if I've been drinking wine, it's always cognac. And I think you know, it's
the only thing missing for us now is that we make a champagne. So we have all three different courses.
Oh, fantastic!
But no, I think you know, we have a new baby in the family, and maybe next time, or I don't know when, but we will add it to the tasting. We forgot to talk about it, but just a few words. We bought a vineyard in Napa Valley in California in 2016, but it's still new. I mean, 16 will be our first vintage. We just released it a few months ago, so it's still new and not very famous, but we will talk about it later. The name is Pimre, and that's the latest baby of the family. So we're gonna, you know, we keep it for you for next time.
You see, we are teasing, and now you want to watch the whole movie.
Excellent. Hey, thank you very much. And just to all our customers who have joined us tonight, thank you all very much for jumping online and for coming and joining the tasting. What we will do tomorrow morning is you will receive an email from us with the details of the wines that you've tasted tonight. I must say the Tesseron cognacs arrived, I think it was the week of Christmas. We have, I believe, sold out of 1 or 2 of them already, which is excellent news. But we were just counting up what's left today. So we will email out tomorrow an offer, and we'll also include the ones that we don't have, because we will ship again shortly. And you'll also get the details on the Pontet Canet that we have in stock. So that'll come out tomorrow morning with a bit of a special offer for everyone that's been online tonight. And we really do appreciate the support. And for those who are in Auckland, back to level 2, and what have we got? Not many hours to go now, and we can go outside and go back to work. It's exciting. But Justine and Noe, thank you again for taking us through, and a pleasure. Thank you
so much for all being with us tonight. And I just want to add one last thing. You are all, of course, invited whenever we are able to travel. Please see with Liz, see with Anthony, see with Regan, with the Glengarry team. Feel free to ask them, and whenever you come in France, you are more than welcome to come and visit us in Pontet Canet or in Cognac. We always make good friends when we see each other. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope next time to see you in France or in New Zealand.
Yeah.
Perfect. Excellent. Very good. Thank you,
right.
everyone.
Have a good night, guys.
Cheers.
Ciao. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Santé. Bye-bye.
Merci beaucoup.
Take care.
Okay.
A bientôt.
Yeah. No, leave now. Leave me till